Good morning and welcome back to another episode of Sofa Safari. Yes, I got it right. You watch my solo safaris now I get excited because I fail every time. Morning boy. It is me again, and if you're wondering why I'm in front of the camera all the time, it's just because Luke and Foreman are busy with doing some proper work on some very exciting projects here at Tandatula. So Britt and I will be looking after the Sofa Safari series for the next few weeks. We haven't actually been out the last couple of days. The weather has been miserable, to say the least. And again, I know you're probably all sitting there in the northern hemisphere thinking you guys don't know what miserable weather is, but it's been chilly, it's been windy, it's been drizzly. It has not been pleasant, so much so that I've just opted to stay in bed all day yesterday editing videos and photos rather than going to see what's out there. It's got a little bit better today. I can see the mountains again, but it is still a bit windy, so we hope that the sound is not going to be too badly affected. Kickstarting with this elephant bull, and at the risk of cursing this episode by saying we're going to go look for lions, but we are. I don't think anybody's driven around the reserve for the last couple of days, so we really have no idea what's going on, but that means it's quite exciting because anything could have happened. So we're going to go out and see what we find, but come along for the ride and wrap up warm. Alright, enjoy! Now this lone bull is not very common sights in our area. I think we've mentioned before how the majority of our elephant sightings, and you've probably seen from the videos, tend to be of the breeding groups, the family herd. He's a young to middle-aged bull, probably in his mid to late 20s, possibly touching early 30s. He does wander around between the herds, but very often when we do see groups like this, it's because we are in proximity to the breeding group. There were some tracks just as we left the safari camp for a herd, so I'm sure he's probably just trailing behind them. But what would stand out for me just pitching up at a scene now and seeing him is the tree that he's chosen to feed on. This is one of our very first episodes of Sofa Safari called a silver cluster leaf. It was the one that Luke lovingly made Brittany eat with some wonderful facial reactions when they put those leaves in their mouth and chewed them. A very strong drying effect. A lot of these very fine hairs that tend to sap out the moisture from your mouth. The tannins assist with that too. Not a very palatable plant, and not one that we typically see animals eating, but looking at the branches on that tree, he's not the first elephant that's actually been feeding on them. There's a couple of them that have been stripped of leaves and stripped of bark. So possibly something at this time of the year, just before they're shedding their leaves, they may be sequestering the tannins back into the cambium layer and the root system, and maybe they do become a little bit more edible, because around him there are considerably more edible trees, or what I would presume to be more edible. But he's literally gone from that silver cluster leaf straight to another one, so it wasn't a chance feeding. He's intentionally going for them. Now that he has decided to come and feed right next to us, he's a lot bigger than I thought, so that shift his age definitely into his 30s. He's a big guy, but he's also a great age of an elephant to view. At this age, at this size, they've got very little to prove. They're not those boisterous young males trying to show off and trying to impress. I don't know who they try to impress. Other elephants try to scare us off, but he's now at an age where he seems to be a lot more confident in his own ability, and as a result they tend to be far more relaxed in their approach to vehicles. Again, he parked 40 meters away from him. We've been sitting here filming him, and he's decided that he wants to come and eat on again, another silver cluster leaf. I'm going to have to just go check up about what it is now that's drawing these elephants to these trees, because you seldom see this at any other time of the year in this area. As I was saying, grasses now, you don't see them touching much grass. This grass, especially what we've got now, is very, very dry, very low palatability during the dry season. So they'll probably only have about 10% of their diet coming from grass, and most of that will come when they're feeding on the riverbeds. The bulk of their diet is coming from these trees now, which are definitely a more nutritious option. See how long and thick those eyelashes are. And they spend their days with their heads pushed into bushes trying to get to the nutritious leaves in the middle. You need something that's going to keep the dust and branches away from your eyes, and having these very thick eyelashes is definitely a benefit to them in such circumstances. Probably not the best light to be viewing a black bird against a dull grey sky, but this little character here is one we have discussed before, the fork-tailed drongo. They're constant companions of these large animals. Unlike the oxpeckers, they'll actually land on the big animals and take the parasites off. This drongo is just waiting for this elephant to do its thing. While it's feeding, there are going to be insects and bugs that get disturbed from the bush in which the elephant is feeding. They're going to fly up, and the drongo is then going to swoop down and grab that insect. So it just sits in close proximity to the feeding animals and waits for them to do their job and chase insects away. Trunk at work is incredible. Very, very tough, thickened skin on there. Very leathery and noduled, and it has this ability that even when it wraps around these very sharp thorns, and what this tree has is both the V-shaped pronounced white thorns, but if you look closely, maybe see those hook-shaped backwards curving thorns. But the skin is so thick that these thorns aren't going to penetrate. And then it's also got very thick lips and tongue, that even when it's putting it into the mouth, not going to feel it. And the big molars in this guy's mouth are going to grind it and grind those things down. So when it swallows it, it's not going to have any effect on the gut. It's actually a fantastic time to talk about these tusks. Although there he used his right hand tusk, you can see he has actually snapped the tip of that right hand tusk off. His left hand tusk very evidently shows something that we call a grass notch, and this you find in older elephants, and about an inch or so from the tip of that tusk you'll see a groove. And through the constant wear and tear of using these tusks to break branches, just as he's demonstrating for us now, the ivory on the tip of that tusk starts wearing away, and it creates this nice groove, which is beneficial to the elephant, because then every other time that he goes to pull a branch off, it's going to slot into that groove, and the lift of the head is going to snap the branch. Over time, however, that notch is going to wear through, and eventually that whole tip of that tusk is going to break off. And over time, the tusk that the elephant prefers utilizing for feeding is going to grow at a slower rate than the one that doesn't get used for feeding. And this is why so many elephants we see have asymmetrical tusk growth. But it appears to be asymmetrical tusk growth. Tusks grow at the same rate, just that slave tusk, the one that does all the work, does tend to get shortened quicker. As wonderful as it is spending time with breeding herds and the entertaining babies, there is actually very little that compares to sitting 3-4 meters away from a giant like this. You realize what gentle creatures they actually are. You get to see the skin close up, you get to watch the action of the trunk. It was a very special sighting to kick off the day. So we're going to carry on now and hope that we pick up some exciting stuff along the way. So wrap up warm and let's go see. Group of wildebeest, and there's some zebra in the background, all of our impalas gathered too. We're just on the thickets on the edge of an area that we call Sunset Plains, and traditionally it is one of those areas that does have good general game, but because the lions have been so active in this area just up ahead, the prey species have become savvy to this and kind of moved away. But possibly an indication that their return to this area means that the lions are obviously operating somewhere else, and possibly why we haven't been finding tracks for the females and cubs of late. You may notice that these impalas are a lot darker in appearance than normal. That is not due to the dull, cloudy conditions that we have, but it's more as a result of the dull, cloudy conditions being much cooler. These antelopes are raising their hair and just trying to trap a layer of warm air against the skin to provide some form of insulation. As it warms up during the day, those hairs will drop and their shiny, smooth appearance of their fur is going to return. Let's hope it returns soon, because my legs are also trying to stand. My legs are trying to stand up. My hair on my legs are trying to stand up. You can't smell it. Or if you can, that's very cool, because you've got a very good sense of smell. But it smells like a farmyard here. You just have to look at the ground and see all this manure sitting over here. This is where a herd of buffaloes has come through the area yesterday, I'd say. This dung is drying a little bit. The conditions haven't been particularly warm, which is an understatement of the day. But what I actually wanted to show you about buffaloes, we've mentioned, I do believe, in some of our safaris, about the effects of not having buffaloes here, and how they are something called, or a process called facilitation, where when you get these long or tall stands of long grass, and it becomes a difficult place for wildebeest and zebras to come and graze in. So things like elephants and buffaloes often come through and flatten that grass, make it shorter. And this is a very good example of where this herd has been sleeping, lying around here, grazing around here, and it actually flattened it. This is going to expose the shorter shoots at the bottom. If they manage to kill the grass when the rain comes, there's going to be fresh shoots growing straight from the bottom rather than the moribund old grasses there, and this becomes a very good habitat then for your more selective grazers like wildebeest and zebras to come through. And without having had the buffalo numbers like we used to, we can actually see how our stands of grass are much longer and much taller than they were 3-4 years ago. So it's good to see some localized effects of these buffaloes in action. And as I come here, I actually see that these droppings in the grass are a lot fresher. So I think this may have been from last night at some point. So we'll maybe just try to see if we can catch up with these guys. Maybe the lions are following them, but probably not. I don't know if you'll be able to see on the road here, this very distinct line going across it. This is something we call a drag mark. It's featured in a solo safari when I found where the lions had dragged a kill into our camp. I don't see any tracks here. It's quite a large, quite a wide drag mark. The assumption is it's from a leopard. He's dragged it down towards the riverbed, but probably an impala or something that's actually kind of covered where her own feet have walked. So we're just going to go check on the riverbank here. Nice thick areas. I'm sure there is a leopard with a kill sitting there. Positive thing, it's very fresh, probably from this morning, and there's no hyena tracks on top of it. You see hyena tracks following it, you know that the leopard's probably lost it to a hyena already, but there's no evidence of hyenas here. So we're going to just go have a look in here quick. hear it being chewed on just in the thickets here, and the question now is how to get in there. Come a little bit in. There is a hyena here in the long grass, not covered in blood and not chewing on anything at the moment. I don't know whether the chewing you heard was from this hyena or if there is maybe a leopard in the tree just behind it. If the kill was on the ground, that hyena would be face first in it, ripping it apart and probably quite dirty and bloodied. It's again ideal location for a leopard to come and hide its kill, especially because of the large trees that grow on the banks. We'll see shortly what's actually happening here. And if the hyena had got the kill, you'd probably find that it would be trying to eat as much as it could as quickly as it could in the event that another hyena from its clan comes in and steals some of it. Leopards, when they've got the kill safely stored up in a tree, tend to eat at a more leisurely pace because they don't have to share it with anyone. But these social predators like your lions and like your hyenas, if you're not eating, someone else is eating and you're going to be losing out. So you try and make best use of that opportunity and eat as much as you can, as quickly as you can. There's Ntombi. She's got her kill safely stashed in this tree. I don't know if we're going to be able to get in there, but I can see the ribs. So yes, fortune was favouring us. This shows the bush. I mean, we've driven around. It's now almost 10 o'clock. Since the elephant that Britt made me stop and talk about this morning, we've seen very, very little. Conditions haven't been great. It's been drizzling most of the morning. And I was just actually driving up on a road that I never normally drive towards one of the staff villages to take a very unattractive crossing past it. And yeah, spotted this drag mark. And fortunately there is a very big pot of gold sitting on the end of it. So it is Ntombi. She's got it up in a jackalberry, which is going to be safe, and there's no doubt that she's going to go and fetch her cubs and bring them back to this kill so that they can feed on it. And this may be our first opportunity in 3 months almost to see these cubs again. So very, very exciting. At the moment she has stopped feeding. She's a bit busy just grooming herself. The hyena has wandered off, knowing that that kill's not going to just dislodge itself. And yeah, we'll just sit around, see what happens. It's not the best tree for viewing, but she doesn't really care about that too much. As long as her kill is safe and that when she brings her cubs back here they are safe, that's all she worries about. Never mind her going to fetch the cubs, they are in the tree already, sitting dead still. Come and try to seek cover under the red grass, and the little cubs will actually come through as well. That's dedication for you, sitting in the rain, but for a scene like this, we will do it. Just before we saw that cub, Britt was like, I'll stay here the whole day until the cubs come. It has moved off. When the rain started, it climbed down the tree and went into the thickets a little bit further up the bank. Mom has since returned to the tree. She realized that the grass wasn't going to give her any cover, and she's just waiting it out. She can probably hear them. No doubt they will return to feed, or at least the one that we have seen will return to feed. One thing I have learned is you don't worry if you only see one cub at a time. The other one might be up in a tree somewhere else, maybe being chased there by the hyenas. Mom's not looking too concerned, so I'm really hoping that both are still alive and well, and that both are here. But when that cub does eventually return, hoping it's going to be a fantastic scene with it walking up and greeting Mom, maybe a little bit of grooming after the rain. So we've got nowhere else to be, so we're going to sit here and wait. Well, I could be warm in bed having a hot shower, but I prefer this. Wet sounding hornbill. So we've waited quite a while for Ntombi to wake up and do something, to no avail. Well, I say that, the sun has come out. It's taken us so long to sit and wait for her. And it's actually warming up quite beautifully now. The cub, however, hasn't come back. We did see it on the opposite bank here. From a distance, it looked as though it could have been the smaller, slightly shy female cub. The hyena is just resting in the riverbed below. The cub was looking on, so I suspect that it's probably just waiting for this hyena to move before it comes back to join Mom. But we're going to leave them be, and we will try again this afternoon while we have the opportunity to catch up with them. But we're going to start making our way back to camp, because it's almost, well, it's past breakfast time, too early for lunch. We'll call it brunch time.